Kleinman, who is seated here to my left. And on Sunday, we spent several hours at the Executive Committee meeting going through the statement almost paragraph by paragraph, had changes made, additions, amendments, and I hope that you will consider it not merely as a statement, but as what Lester spoke of, an agenda for action. I know the people who come to AIPAC are not people who just read things, but do things. And so I'm only going to read to you the first paragraph and then ask for the acceptance of this statement, which will be printed for us and distributed again so that you will remember. But its major function is for the people who are in the Congress to know where we stand in terms of what AIPAC's policy is at this time in March and hopefully for the year ahead. Sound U.S. policy in the Middle East rests on the continued strength of the mutually beneficial U.S.-Israel relationship. Bonds between the two allies are based on shared democratic and moral values. These bonds are enhanced by continued close cooperation and coordination in the search for a regional peace and in the realms of diplomacy, strategic defense cooperation, and economic ties. AIPAC's objective is to strengthen the United States relationship with Israel. AIPAC's commitment to achieving this goal is relentless and unwavering. Working together, AIPAC must ensure that the partnership between government and people in the grassroots in the United States and the government and people of Israel flourishes. And then comes our agenda for action. Mr. Chairman, I move the acceptance of this policy statement. Second.
We have a motion to approve the policy statement as submitted to this plenum yesterday and for which the rabbi has read the first paragraph. It has been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Unanimous. Thank you very much, Steve. Here it is.
Thank you, Rabbi, for your work. And I also, once again, in the spirit of volunteer professional partnerships, want to acknowledge on behalf of the whole organization the work that Miriam Kleiman did as the staff person who headed up the platform policy statement drafting committee. Thank you, Miriam. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd now like to introduce our Chairman Emeritus, past President, Chairman of our Strategic Planning Committee, Larry Weinberg from Los Angeles, California.
Thank you very much, Steve. Yeah, I see. It was 17 years ago, at the age of 27, that Dennis Prager became the director of a unique Jewish institution known as the Brandeis Bardeen Institute in Simi Valley, California. At the time, I was privileged to have been serving on the board of directors of Brandeis Bardeen, and I've taken a very special interest over the years in following Dennis's extraordinary career. Described as one of the most creative minds in organized Jewish life today, Dennis was born and raised in Brooklyn. He attended the renowned Yeshiva of Flatbush and upon graduation entered Brooklyn College. As a 20-year-old in 1969, following a trip to Israel, Dennis traveled to the Soviet Union to meet clandestinely with Jewish dissidents. It was a profound, moving, indeed a life-changing experience for him. He returned home in the forefront of the movement to free Soviet Jewry. With great intellect and charisma, Dennis was propelled from success as a lecturer and educator on the Jewish circuit to become a highly sought-after voice on a wide range of issues dealing with morality, ethics, and values in the community at large. Between lectures, he co-authored with Joseph Telushkin the book 9 Questions People Ask About Judaism, and completed his graduate work as a fellow at the School of International Affairs at Columbia University. He later co-authored Why the Jews? The Reasons for Anti-Semitism with Joseph Telushkin. And that book was later called the wisest, most original, and provocative book on the subject. In 1983, following his tenure as director of Brandeis Bardeen, Dennis was invited to fill in as a moderator for a Sunday night program on KABC in Los Angeles called Religion on the Line. The program consisted of a priest, a minister, and a rabbi, fielding theological questions from callers. An hour into the show, Dennis was handed a note that read, "Announce that you'll be back next week." He's been back ever since. Today, Dennis's nightly radio program is #1 in its time slot in Los Angeles. And it might be worth noting that he'll be broadcasting his show from Israel for a whole week this coming June. As an author, lecturer, educator, and publisher, Dennis is a valuable asset to the Jewish community and indeed to the community at large. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome him today. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm AIPAC welcome to Dennis Prager.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed officers of AIPAC, Larry Weinberg, thank you very much. I will just tell you at the outset, whenever I receive such a beautiful introduction, I think of one that I once gave, which I ruined, and I'd like to share with you, especially given the serious nature of my talk. I think it's an appropriate beginning. I actually gave the following introduction to my dear friend and co-author Joseph Telushkin at the opening inaugural ceremony, if you will, before 1,000 people in Southern California about 8 years ago, when our second book, Why the Jews? The Reason for Anti-Semitism, came out. This is exactly what I said. Larry, I didn't have notes because, after all, I know Joseph since high school, since Flatbush, and I got carried away introducing my best friend, and this is exactly what I said. The evening was, he introduced me and I spoke on anti-Semitism, then I introduced him and he spoke on the subject, and this is what I said. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege and pleasure this evening to introduce to you Rabbi Joseph Telushkin. When Joseph Telushkin speaks, he brings Jewish history to life. He brings Jewish thought to life. He brings anti-Semitism to life. Well, you can imagine his joy at being introduced as one whose talks cause pogroms. So Larry, I thought of that, and that is not something I have to overcome with that warm introduction. My only dilemma is trying to say as much as I want to share with you with this august meeting in the time frame that I'm given. I often comment that I studied speaking under Fidel Castro, so the time I'm given makes it very difficult. What do I want to talk to you about? That was my one great dilemma. What do I want to talk to this organization about? You know so well how to make the case for Israel in this great democracy of the United States. I'm not going to tell you how to deal politically. That is your expertise. I want to talk to you about everything outside of Capitol Hill. I want to talk to you about the soul of America and the soul of the Jews, because there is a battle for the soul of America and there is a battle for the soul of the Jews right now, and if we lose that battle, all the great work that you'll ever do here in Washington will come to naught. Ultimately, the battle for Israel is a battle for values, and we have to work on America's values and Jews' values, or it's all lost. I beg you to know that. I think in your gut you do, but that's what I want to talk to you about. And I want to address you as Americans and as Jews that we are so blessed, so privileged to be both. The older I get, the more I feel that I have two fathers, Abraham and George Washington. I am simply blessed by that fact. And the more I have traveled, now 70 countries, the more I have come to believe in the truth of that. I want to address you first with regard to our Americanness and the battle for the American soul. We Jews have to be a moral and spiritual force in America, not merely a political one. The battle is a moral and spiritual one. Politics, in the final analysis, is the expression of the moral qualities of a country rather than the cause of it. When parents tell me, how can I raise my children to be ethical? Look at the corruption in government. I say they have it backwards. Corruption comes from within. It doesn't come from above. You have to raise good kids. Those good kids will run for office and be good people. That's the way it works. The battle begins in the soul, the heart, and the character of our people. I want to offer you 8 battles. I want to offer you 8 battles, any one of which could be its own lecture, but I need to touch on each of them at least briefly. 8 battles for the American soul, that if we lose, we cannot win any of our moral or political battles, and certainly not one for support for the Jewish state. In no order of importance, but number 1, we have to oppose those who keep knocking America as a morally inferior country. America, the United States of America has problems, absolutely. But it is time for us to stop the rhetoric that is too overwhelming, too demoralizing, to call America racist, to call America imperialist. Rhetoric has consequences. I saw those consequences in my city of Los Angeles last April. If you call America racist, if you print in the Los Angeles Times 3 days after the riots excerpts from Andrew Hacker's book that America really wants to commit genocide against its blacks, what do you expect but anger and fire? We have to tone down the rhetoric. If you call abortion murder, a doctor who performs it will be killed one day. If you call America racist and genocidal, it will be burned down one day. Rhetoric has consequences. This country has racial problems, but it is not a racist country. If our country is as bad as it is frequently depicted in the overwrought rhetoric, then nothing it ever does will be seen as moral, and we can make no claim for support for Israel, because our claim, as you just heard from our Secretary of State, I quote, is religious and ethical moral values. Again, fundamental moral values that we share that are exceedingly important. If America is not seen as a moral state, what do we share with Israel? It is all a matter of the battle for the moral soul of America. Problems are problems, but to say it is evil is to say that whatever it does is not moral. People call my radio show and tell me that we're in Somalia for oil. That's incredible, incredible. When in the history of the world have whites died to save black lives? As they are now, have Christians died to save Muslim lives? And the cynics say it's for oil, Somalian oil. That's what we need. This is what needs to be fought. We are there as we are in Bosnia dropping food, and I wish, frankly, we did more, but we are the ones to drop food. When Bosnian Muslims wanted help, they didn't say, where is Switzerland? They didn't say, where is Saudi Arabia, our fellow Muslims? They said, where is America? And America answered.